Hey everybody, Sal Capaccio here, WGR Sports Radio 550, Bill's sideline reporter, inviting you to do what I do every Wednesday and Friday night. That's check out 30 Minutes Live with CDP, coming at you from Ontario, right on your Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube channels. You can check it out every Wednesday and Friday night, just like I do. 30 Minutes Live with CDP.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Live with CDP podcast on this Monday, January 10th at 5 o'clock here in minus 21 with the wind chilled temperatures in Guelph today. So a lot of NFL news that happened today as well, and I will bring that up as well. Today's episode, this is season 2, episode 47, and my guest today is Edward Ford. He's a news producer for Fox 61 in Hartford, Connecticut, and he's a huge Washington football team fan and a fan of the Capitals and Alexander Ovechkin, and of course the Washington Nationals. So we're going to talk to Edward a little bit about his career as a news producer for Fox 61 in Hartford, Connecticut, and some a little bit of sports as well. If you guys can just give me a minute or two, and I will bring on Edward Ford from Fox 61 in Hartford. Just 1 second. Hey, good afternoon, Edward. How you doing?
I'm doing really good. It's pretty cold up here as well. Just saw on the news that it's probably going to be like 20 degrees tonight for the wind chill. And sometime next week, it's supposed to feel like it's going to be 10 degrees, which means it's going to probably feel like -5. So not quite where the degrees is where you're at, but trust me, -5, -10, I felt it before because I moved from upstate New York, where it can get very cold as well because of the Arctic air coming from Canada.
Yeah.
And, I think it was one time it was -10 up there. So it can get pretty cold up there.
I was speaking of that. It was 40 years ago today, AFC divisional playoff game between Cincinnati and San Diego. It was -59 with the wind chilled in Cincinnati.
Wow. Now, see, that's frigid cold. I couldn't stay out there. I would have to watch it from home. More power to all the fans who go to those games, especially the ones who go to those games and don't have a shirt on. You're great. You're some wonderful fans because I couldn't do it.
I was going to say -59. I was only 9 years old at the time, but I just couldn't imagine playing a football game in those temperatures. And Cincinnati won that game, but I that's, to me, the coldest game I've ever seen on record. So we'll see what the weather is going to be like for some of the games this weekend, especially in Buffalo. Unfortunately, the Buffalo Bills, they're a good team, Edward, but I don't think they're built for the weather that's in Orchard Park, like with the high winds, the snow. Sometimes they get the rain too. And I honestly think the weather being bad, if it's bad up in Orchard Park Saturday, might play in New England's favor with their running game.
Yeah, so I totally agree with you. People had to kind of switch that, it's not Tom Brady and Bill Belichick anymore, but people still have to also realize Bill Belichick has been through this. His team plays in cold weather essentially 2/3 maybe of the season. September, October is right around maybe a quarter of the season, maybe close to a third by then when you've played about 8 games. But once you hit November, December, and that last week in January, you're talking about 9 weeks in the cold. You're talking about Arctic bowls, sometimes that's what we call it, or frigid bowls, whatever you want to call it. The Patriots are used to playing those games. And like you just announced, or even mentioned, you got players who are used to that. You got players who are still in New England that has played in blizzard type weather. I mean, Buffalo has played in cold weather.
Yeah.
They played in snow, but I don't think they played in the snow like New England has. I don't think they played in blizzard weather kind of like New England has all year. I mean, when you got a head coach to come out with just a jacket on and a hat and no gloves, it tells you what he's used to. The man's been there forever. He's been there for a decade at least. And he's coached this team through weathery storms like that, and has still won Super Bowls. And I'm not saying he's going to win a Super Bowl. What I'm saying is I agree with you. I think this favors the Patriots. The only thing that scares me from the Patriots is this is Mac Jones' first playoff round.
Yeah.
And this is not Josh Allen's first go-around. I mean, I think this is Josh Allen's third go-around as far as playoff-wise. Last year, I believe they got to the AFC Championship.
This will be his fifth playoff game.
Okay, so you're talking about fifth playoff game versus the first. Now, that's not to say Mac Jones can't do it. I think he can do it. But he's going to need the run game because I think Josh Allen is going to force, in a sense, and I know this is backwards for some of you guys. You guys never usually probably hear this, but I think Josh Allen's offense is going to force Jones to pass. Why? Because Josh Allen can pass the ball around. He's got weapons. And that's not to say the Patriots don't, but the Patriots still have a young quarterback who has shown us a lot of growth in his first season.
Yep.
But he's still going to have to match Josh Allen throw for throw, drive for drive. And if he can't do that, then I think it flips in Buffalo's favor. But right now, I still think that the weather favors the New England Patriots.
I was going to say, to me, if the Patriots are going to win this game, they got to keep it low scoring because they don't have the firepower on offense, especially with the receivers that Buffalo does. And with 70,000 Bills fans there, if the Bills get off to a 7-10, 14-0 start, those fans can get they're one of the loudest in the National Football League. So I think for the Patriots, it's going to be important to have a strong first quarter against Buffalo and to establish the run right away and keep the fans quiet and to take the lead because the Bills do not play well from behind. They're a better team when they're up ahead. And New England, the same thing. New England is not a very good team when they get behind. Look at the game against Miami. They were down 17-0. Obviously, they rallied to make it a 9-point game at the end. But most teams, the majority of teams, especially in the playoffs, you don't want to fall behind. So we'll see what happens there. But I know Belichick's 36-8 lifetime against the Bills and 19-3 in Orchard Park. So we'll see what happens.
Yep, I agree with you there. I just look if Mac Jones and Bill Belichick pulls it out, I think also, and I think this is something that people need to know. I think that this silenced the crowd with the Bill Belichick can't do it without Tom Brady thing. He had an off year last year. They had Cam Newton, probably wasn't the best quarterback in the league. Gave him chances to win, but wasn't the best. And you get Mac Jones this year to be your starter, and now you're in the playoffs. But again, I think it silences the Bill Belichick can't do it, especially if they get past this round and they get to the AFC Championship. If they get to the AFC Championship, it silences everybody, whether they win that championship game or not, if they get there.
I'm going to give you my picks right now while I have you on. I'm going to pick the Bengals over the Raiders. I got the Patriots over the Bills by 7. Steelers over the Chiefs. Honest to God, I know sounds crazy, but I really think the Steelers might upset the Chiefs because Kansas City's been good this year, but they're still not the same team. And I really think Pittsburgh might have a chance to upset them. And then I got Arizona over the Rams 31-30. I've got the Niners upsetting the Cowboys by 3 points, 24-21. If San Francisco's defense can put pressure on Dak Prescott and not having Michael Gallup in the lineup, and I don't know about Tony Pollard's status, and the Niners have a great running game, I think the Niners can upset Dallas. And then as much as I'm an Eagles fan, go Birds, fly Eagles fly, I've got Tampa Bay over the Eagles 31-17. I just don't think the Eagles right now, they're in a rebuild, and they're a young team, and I just don't like Jalen Hurts' first playoff game against Tom Brady. So the Eagles' only chance in this game is if the defense can get pressure on Brady, sack him, cause some turnovers, and they score touchdowns off of turnovers. I know the Eagles are the number 1 rushing team in the league, but other than Devontae Smith, the Eagles receivers are not, they're okay, but they're nothing great. And I think Tampa Bay is going to try to take Devontae Smith out of the game. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope the Eagles win, but I have Tampa Bay winning 31-17.
Okay. Did you already choose the Monday night game, the Rams and Cardinals?
Yeah, I did. I got the Cardinals winning 31-30. I think this game.
Okay, so you got that one being a shootout, pretty much a close one.
Yep, I think that game might be the video game of the week, back and forth.
Yeah, and it's on Monday night, the only game you get, so why not have it that way?
Yeah, and I think Cincinnati's going to finally win a playoff game. They haven't won one since 1990 or 91, I believe, when I was 18, and now I'm 49. So I really think the Bengals are going to finally get that playoff drought over the Raiders. But that game last night, the Raiders and Chargers, man, that was sick. Just back and forth and the way they ended. And I really thought
they did a tie. Oh my goodness, like that was crazy.
Yes, so but we'll see what happens. But what's your feelings, Edward, on these games?
So right now I'm looking at the playoff picture, and I'm gonna take the Bengals over the Raiders. I think it's a close one. I don't think that the Bengals blow out the Raiders because I think last night, the Raiders proved to us they can score, obviously. They just needed to get everything in sync. They had a lot of bad things happen in that organization. But I think it's more so a 30-23. I'm picking the Bengals. I think it's a high scoring game. I think Josh Jacobs is going to be a big factor for them. They are going to need to pound that ball and run it, kind of like how they did last night. They're going to need some really, really, really big runs from Josh Jacobs. But I think the Bengals pull out their very first, playoff win. I know you had said your age. I'm 30, so I guess that would mean they haven't won a playoff game probably my entire life.
Yeah.
So that's pretty crazy that they haven't won a playoff game my entire life. But if I think about it, Washington beat Seattle back in the early 2000s. That's how long it's been since the Bengals have won a playoff game, guys. Washington has won a playoff game before the Bengals in my lifetime, and I'm 30. Okay, so and I'll be 31 this year in 3 months, so that's crazy. I think this is where I don't know who you picked here, but I'm going to go in an upset here. Even though people don't see it as an upset, I mean, I know we spoke that the weather favors the Patriots. I think the Buffalo Bills will knock out Bill Belichick. I know I just told you guys that he has to win this game and maybe the divisional round as well to shut up the critics. That was just to quiet the critics. That's not meaning he's going to win this game. But I think the Bills win this one. I think this was a 30-20 type game. I think it's exactly what you said. I think that they get off to a fast start. I think they get off to that 7-0, 10-0 type of start for Buffalo, and then the Patriots are probably out of it from there. It's 70,000 Bills fans. They're back in the playoffs. They almost fell out of the playoffs, so they're happy to be there. And you don't want to give Josh Allen a chance. That's all this guy needs is just a chance to even be in the playoffs, and he's there. Like you said, look, you're a divisional rival. I get it. But I just couldn't pick the Eagles over Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay got Gronkowski back. They still got Mike Evans. They got Leonard Fournette. The only way the Eagles win this game is if they take a page, and I hate to say this, they take a page out of Washington's book against Tom Brady. You have to make him turn that ball over in whatever fashion way it is in that first quarter. Washington got on their winning streak by beating Tampa. Okay, let's not forget that. They beat Tampa. Sure, they didn't have Gronkowski. Sure, they didn't have, I think, Antonio Brown out there. But at the end of the day, you put out there and you play the product that you put on the field, and it's the next man up, right? Washington had a lot of guys out that game. They still won it convincingly. And I think the reason they won is because Tom Brady, unexpectedly, and not Tom Brady-like, threw 2 picks before it was halftime. Washington got points off of that. If the Eagles are going to win, they got to not only get a few turnovers from Tom Brady in the first half, they got to get points out of it. You can't have him throw 2 or 3 picks, but it turns into 0 points. Because if it's 0 points off of 2 or 3 picks or even a fumble and 2 picks or whichever way it works, it's a win-win for Tom Brady in Tampa. You just can't do that. So in this moment, I'm taking Tampa, but I wouldn't be shocked if the lines or if like the favorites turn, if Philly gets those turnovers and they're leading at half. San Francisco against Dallas. I forgot Michael Gallup was out. I forgot Tony Pollard might be out. I think those two forcing Ezekiel Elliott to be on the field for a long time, in my opinion, people disagree with me all year. Ezekiel Elliott's hurt. Okay, he's been hurt the entire year. He's not that type of back anymore that can take 30 rushes and get you 150 yards. And with Michael Gallup out, I think what hurts them there is now you're forced to be Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. Okay, and I'm gonna make this funny. If CeeDee doesn't have any lamb to eat, he's not. The Cowboys are going to lose that game because essentially they become one-dimensional to me with one receiver. And I think the 49ers have a great defense and they have young cornerbacks. But I think they're going to get to Dak Prescott. They're going to force him to throw the ball before he wants to. And I think one of those receivers are going to be shut down. CeeDee Lamb has not had first of all, this is his first playoff game. So we don't know how he's going to play, his jitterbugs. So I think San Francisco over Dallas. I do think it's going to be a close one. I think San Francisco upsets Dallas 31-27. Dallas, once again, Super Bowl aspirations shut down again this year. Going to have to try again next year, unfortunately. Here's the big one for me. Steelers and Chiefs. And I agree with you here. I go all the way back to, you guys are going to hear me reference Washington a lot because a lot of these teams we played. The Chiefs were not that great in Washington's game. Washington was just a bad team at that point. Okay, they still was towards the end of the season, but they weren't a great team in the first half. Kansas City was not killing Washington in the first half at all. I mean, I think we went to the half down maybe 10 or a touchdown. Luckily, we weren't blown out. By the end of the game, they got blown out. But the reason I say that is because if Pittsburgh and Big Ben can find a way to put up 17 points on Kansas City and keep it close, like you said, this favors Pittsburgh all the way. Yes, to the 7th seed. Yes, once again, they got to go to a cold place. But guess what? Hartford is cold too. They're used to the snow up there as well. They're used to the frigid, cold temperatures and rain. So right now, I'm going to take the Chiefs in this. But again, it's a close one.
Oh yeah.
I think this is a game that's somewhere around 24-17. It could be another close game like the Chargers and Raiders last night, where unfortunately we go to overtime. But in the playoffs, there is no tie. You go until somebody wins. So I think this is my second game here to watch out of the week. Primetime game as well. And for those of you who don't know, it's on NBC and Peacock and Telemundo. So for those of you who use Peacock, don't worry. You're going to get to see a game. It's going to be the primetime one. And down to Arizona and the Rams. This is one where I'm like, St. Louis has the firepower. They have the defense, but then you look at Arizona, you go, they also have the firepower. They also have a good tight end, Zach Ertz. They also have a good defense. So you're looking at two teams again on another primetime game that could be a shootout, or it could be low scoring. You picked the Cardinals, right? Or did you pick the Rams?
I picked the Cardinals to win 31-30 because I don't trust Matthew Stafford in the playoffs. He's never won a playoff game.
Matthew Stafford has the weapons now. I think Cooper Kupp, now that he has, I know he has Higbee as his tight end, but they now have Odell out there to kind of take a little bit off of Cooper Kupp. This one I'm kind of iffy in the air because I'm like, Arizona also has the weapons and the defense. And I think the thing for me, it's definitely a toss-up, and I think that's why they put this game on Monday night, because it's really, really a close toss-up between these two. If I had to take someone, see, like you said, I'm scared with Matthew Stafford because the way he threw that ball last night was Taylor Heineke-like. Like, he just threw it up and hoping somebody would catch it. And I think it was Odell. He had no idea where the ball was. He just had no idea. So, you know what? I'm going to go to upset two here. I'm going to take Arizona in a very close one, but I think it's more so 31-28. I think the Rams' Super Bowl aspirations, which was there as well, I think those are the two teams out of, the three teams, obviously, out of the NFC, Tampa, the Rams, and I hate to say this, but the Cowboys, who are those Super Bowl contender type of teams, I think that's the second team that goes out of the playoffs. And unfortunately, you know what? I won't even give them my picks for the second round, just in case I come back on here. Then we'll do it again later.
Yeah, definitely. I do think there's going to be at least two upsets this weekend, at least two. Because any given Sunday, as I always say, any given Sunday, any team can be beat.
Oh yeah, and look, this is different than basketball and in hockey, right? In baseball. I mean, Nationals fan, hockey fan. I'm even a Wizards fan too, and a Lakers fan. And when you think about the other sports, you get 4 chances. You get 4 chances. If you lose 1 or 2 games,
no big
you're not out of it. Again, Capitals fans, we know it. We was down in the series against the Columbus Blue Jackets, came all the way back and won 4 games. And that's why I say it's not those leagues, you can lose 2 or 3 and still come all the way back. Yeah. But football is the best sports in playoffs, because I say it only because it's one and done. There is no second chance. There is none of that. You lose that game and you're out and you're packing and you're going home.
Definitely. And I know everybody razzed me about the Eagles on Saturday night, but you know what? This game against Dallas meant nothing to the Eagles. We weren't going to have a home field advantage, and I didn't want to see Hurts and any key players being hurt, because the real season starts this weekend, and Dallas can gloat about their victory. But you know what? If let's say the Eagles upset the Bucs and the Cowboys are out, guess who's going to be doing the trash talking on the weekend?
Well, and let me tell you this about Cowboys fans, and whoever watches this, don't care if you're a Cowboys fan. Here's why I gotta say this: you trashed Washington on Sunday night. Yep. Washington is not a great team. Okay, you barely won the game in Landover. You barely won that game with the same players on the field. So know this: you put up 50 points against the Eagles in Washington. Essentially, 2 teams who have backups in. I'm not going to make any excuses, because backups you have to start. And you have to play with them. Next man up mentality, already said. Washington did it last year to the Cowboys. They beat them by like 30 points in Dallas. So I saw it as a return favor, okay, whatever. But just know this: if you don't win this playoff game, or don't even get to the Super Bowl, okay, I'm not even going to count you out of the NFC Championship. You don't get to the Super Bowl, you will be getting trash talk from all fans around the league, not just Eagles or Washington or Giants, everybody. Because every year to you guys, we're going to the Super Bowl, we're going to the Super Bowl, and then you don't get there. Yep. Here's a little key thing for you guys: stay low, expect the worst, see the highest. Sometimes you guys get too high, and then the lowest hits you. Yep. Okay. Again, I would use it because I experienced it. Washington Capitals would always get knocked out by the Pittsburgh Penguins, always. So that year, 2018, we went in with we're not going to get past the Penguins, right? Not saying we didn't care about the Capitals, but sometimes you don't expect the best, and it happens. Same thing for the Nationals. How did they get to the World Series? They were a wild card team. One and done, another one and done game. We didn't expect them to go to the World Series, but when they did, they won it. Sometimes you have to expect the worst, or just expect not much to get much. So that's what I got to say for the Cowboys fans before you even think about winning a Super Bowl.
Well, it's like, hey, I want the Eagles to win. I'm going to be cheering for the Birds on Sunday, but I'm being realistic too. And if the Eagles do shock them, I will be so happy. But if they lose, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, fire Sirianni, get rid of Jalen Hurts. The Eagles weren't really supposed to make the playoffs this year, and Sirianni and Hurts have done a nice job. And this is bonus because now Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts, a couple of their young stars for the future, are going to get playoff experience. And to me, the Eagles have nothing to lose on Sunday. Tampa Bay has everything to lose, being the Super Bowl champions.
And you're right. At the end of the day, that's kind of how Washington approached it last year. Why do you think Taylor Heineke, got his playoff experience, even though I don't see him being the starting quarterback next year? And you got guys like Terry McLaurin. He got some playoff experience. Antonio Gibson got some playoff. I mean, young guys still got the playoff experience, even though this year they didn't make it. So I mean, at the end of the day, yes, you're right. You want to get the playoff experience regardless.
Definitely. Okay. Are you still good for time? I was just going to ask you some questions about your career at Fox 61. And then at the end, we'll just talk a little more about Washington sports, about the Capitals and the Nationals and all that too, and stuff like that. So,
okay.
First question I wanted to ask you, Edward, is can you tell my audience just a little bit about yourself and when you decided to pursue a career as a news producer?
So I'll tell you this. When I went to college, it was all up in the air. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. When I was growing up and I was a young boy, I wanted to be a police officer, believe it or not. And none of you probably knew that. I wanted to be a police officer, but I was only going to do it for like 3, maybe 4 or 5 years. Because by the time I got out of college while working as a police officer, I wanted to become a homicide detective. I wanted to help the community in taking the bad guys off the street. I wanted to pursue and prosecute those who commit crimes, because committing a crime is just bad. It's just against all, rights in this country. So, but then when I got into college, it was like, I wanted to be a psychologist. Then I wanted to be a PA. So I was all over the place. But then a bunch of people who knew me from back home, for those of you who don't know, I volunteer as a firefighter back home, have been doing it for 15 years this year. And somebody was like, man, I seen you do an interview when I went to a draft day party at FedEx Field almost, 8-9 years ago. And I interviewed the tight end and the fullback. And it was with the guy who's no longer with NBC, of course. And at that time, it was Comcast Sportsnet. And he literally said it to him when I asked him questions, this guy's good. He's going to take my job. So that's what I knew. And everybody else told me, why don't you just go into media? You seem to really enjoy it. You seem to love talking about it. And you have a passion for it. So I chose to do communications and media when I was in college. And I really decided to pursue being a news producer because I really wanted to learn the aspects of writing, being in the booth during the frantic points of a show, when you got to float stuff out, when you have breaking news, you have weather watch days, you have hurricanes coming, tropical storms. And I'm not saying I like those guys. What I'm saying is that I enjoy sending information out to viewers, regardless of where I work. So I was in college for about 5.5, 6 years because, I worked full-time, so I had to go part-time. And my last year of college, I went full-time for the entire year, minus when I was an intern. Because I started interning at NBC 11 in Baltimore, Maryland, during the 2018 springtime. And then I really, really, really learned a lot about what it meant to be in news from there. And I knew I really wanted to be a news producer from there. So I pursued my career as a news producer, and then I learned, okay, I really want to be on air. I really want to do this on air stuff. I would love to do sports, but I know sometimes you got to start in news, learn the news stuff first. So again, I'm a news producer at Fox 61 here in Hartford, Connecticut, but I started actually as a news producer in upstate New York at CBS 6. And I was there for about 10 months. And they also asked me to do the pregame show for the Yankees with the sports anchor. So then I became their co-producer with the sports anchor / reporter for about, I want to say 4 or 5 months before moving down to Hartford. Then I came down to Hartford, which is a bigger market. It's market 32 right now. So I came from 59 to 32 down here. I love it in Hartford. I live in the city. It's wonderful. I will say it is an upgrade from where I was living in upstate New York, because you just got all the city aspirations and all the city buildings and restaurants and clubs and bars and everything is here. So I love being a news producer again, because when you wake up in the morning, you don't know what the news is going to tell you besides COVID every day. I get that probably some of you are kind of over the COVID stuff, but it's part of the news. We have to put it out there. But I really like being a news producer again, because it's like when you walk into the building, it's your show. I think that's the biggest thing, that if any of you are pursuing news producers or even pursuing to be any on-air talent, understand that story is your story. It's not just a news station story. Of course, you take credit for it because your name's on it, but just know it's your story. And I think sitting down and putting together a show the way you want to. For example, looking at the podcast right now, these are what we call double boxes at the news station. But we also have where you can do quadruple boxes. You can have 4 people in the box. You can have a news anchor and a VO and a mom and the VO playing out in the box next to it. So being able to be creative is what I love about being a news producer. And being a news producer helps me when I want to be a reporter and anchor, because now I know the writing aspects. I know what it means to be up for your live shot 2 minutes ahead, what it means when you're in boxes. If you just go and be a reporter, you really don't always know what it means to be a news producer. And I've always been told, be a news producer first, then you go and be a reporter, because then again, you get the writing aspect down. You know what teasers are supposed to look like. You know what VOs and packages and all this is supposed to look like. And then news directors love news producers who want to become reporters, because you already have the writing. I've had people tell me, okay, we know you could be a reporter. We want you to be a producer here first. Get to the hang of what it means to be a producer, obviously here at Fox 61. And then if a reporter position opens, I can apply. And I may get that position because I was a news producer first. And I understand the station. And they already see my writing aspects. Now they're not afraid of that. Then they'll push me up and say, okay, can you give me a package or a reporter reel so we can see how you do? And if that's good enough, boom, you got the job. It's a lot harder than it seems, because you have to have that on-air aspirations if you really want to go from being producer to reporter as well, because it's not about just how you look, it's how you present the story. So that's a little bit about me and how I got to become a news producer. And again, I love it because when you're in the booth, you're in control. It's your show. You tell people what to do. You're ultimately the boss in there. You know, everybody else does what you tell them to.
And I started volunteering a couple years ago with a semi-pro basketball team here, and they were short camera guys. I've never done that before. So they basically, can you help us out do some camera work? And the producer showed me what to do. And I did the last half of the game, and they actually liked my work. They actually paid me for it. Then they told me to volunteer with Rogers TV, which is a major TV cable company in Toronto. They own the Jays, Raptors, and that. And I got into volunteering with Rogers TV as a camera operator, and then that led to me starting my own podcast up. And right now, between doing my podcast 3-4 times a week and volunteering with Rogers TV before this COVID shutdown, I was doing 1 or 2 games a week as a camera operator. And I have so much respect for broadcast, because the producer, you're right, the producer is the quarterback of a production. You have to know every aspect of it. And right now, I'm just still learning doing the camera part, but I'm hoping in the future I'll be able to learn maybe graphics, audio, as much as I can from them to apply to my podcast. And I'm hoping to have an opportunity in radio one day.
Oh, you'll get there, and I'll tell you this. I even started as an AP in radio, so I would essentially put together, like I would edit audio, I would edit some things, put it on SoundCloud is what they use. I actually worked for WIYY 98 Rock in Baltimore as well. So after my internship, I literally transitioned into radio. So I have been in that building for like 8 months before I just said, okay, I got to focus on school and full time work. But I will say, if you did that for those people and they liked it, that's a good sign for you. Never give up. Never say you won't do it. Somebody's going to give you a shot. You got this. You got your producer. I mean, your producer. You got your stuff going on right now with your podcast. That's good. That's the good thing right there. You're showing people what you can do. You're showing people you have connections. You got me on. So you got somebody from media now that you can even reach out and say, hey, look, what are your off days? Can we talk about, like, for example, I'm off on Mondays. So Sundays is I get off Sundays mornings at 9 a.m. So, like, if you ever wanted to have a pregame or if you ever want to have a pregame and postgame on Mondays, we can do it because we can talk about the past playoff games. One day we can talk about, is baseball ever going to come back next year with the lockout? I mean, there's so much to talk about right now. And with COVID not shutting everything down again anymore, that to this point, you will get there. It was hard for me. When I got my first producer job, I took a pay cut essentially because I was working in the hospital and I was making more money in the hospital. I took a few dollars pay cut to go to New York State. Took almost $3 of a pay cut, okay? And for some that says, oh, it's just $3, you must be making six figures where it doesn't affect you that much if you take $3 of a pay cut. I had to work overtime to get over 45. It was making like 19. So when I took a $3 pay cut, that's almost $100 or so every paycheck. And for me, that was a lot. So I took that because I wanted to get into that business. I had applied to 10 producer jobs and got called about 2 of them, got 1 of them. I applied to Hartford. Mind you, again, Hartford is market 32. New York State is market 59. I only had 10 months as a producer, and they still hired me here because they love my aspirations. They love my energy. And I've been told my energy, me being coachable, and these are just pointers for you and anybody out there looking to get into media. You got to be coachable. Bring that energy. Don't lose the energy you had before you get there and feel like you got to be this low person. No. Bring that same energy you brought in school and that aspiration you had for the position. So energy, bring the aspiration, be coachable. I was told how versatile I was. I love that. I mean, this is something that was given to me on the Christmas card gift. And I'm like, this is wonderful to know. This means where I'm at, they love me. I'm coachable. They can tell me things, and I don't take offense to it. I don't. You got to be able to be coachable. So, again, that's why I love being in media. You know, I'll say this. Producers aren't just producers. They're journalists. Everybody in that building is a journalist. You know, even people who work in creative services, okay, for commercials are journalists. We all work together, you know, so that's why I say you'll get there because I have the same aspirations that I will become a reporter and a sports anchor. And I want to eventually call live football games for like ESPN and CBS and stuff. So it's going to happen for you. Don't worry. Just keep that same attitude.
Oh, that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm doing it the unconventional way without, like, I do have college law and security, but I've been told by some people that are in the college industry, what I'm doing right now, I'm getting my learning on the podcast and people don't realize podcasts are a lot of work. You can't just sit at home. Okay, I'm at home doing this, but you have to book guests. You have to produce shows. You have to line everything up, and it's a lot of work. But I love it. This to me isn't really work. It's something I really have a passion for. It took me almost 49 years to figure out what I want to do, but I'm just hoping my platform on here and with doing Rogers TV, somebody will give me an opportunity. I just have to keep grinding away at it and keep learning and keep getting great guests like yourself come on too.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. And I would say this, like my first package I put together, I was so happy and I sent it out to my friends and family. One day I'm gonna put it up on Twitter for people to see. And the good thing about it is my friends and family, they were so happy. They was like, wait, that's Edward? Like they never, I mean, they knew that I could get there, but to see me get there or even put that highlight reel, that package reel together, they see me getting there faster than they thought. You know, this is an industry where sometimes you get knocked down and some people don't pick themselves up. I'm not that type of person. I'm gonna keep grinding at it. I had the sports anchor a day or two ago say, okay, you know, holiday season hit us, so we had to slow down. Camera was out of service. Now he wants to help me do this on air stuff. So now I'm getting more stuff that I'm gonna be able to get on air and other people are going to be able to see it. I have people reach out to me on LinkedIn. Make a LinkedIn if you guys don't have it. An EP reached out to me from a news station in New York City. If you guys don't know, New York City is the #1 market. Now, I hate to say this, but the pay for #1 market out there is $75,000 to $100,000 for a producer. $75,000 to $100,000. I say that twice because some people say, "Oh, producers don't make much." Oh no, they can. You have to understand the industry and move up. Okay, and I know it sounds like when I said 59 to 32, you guys are like the numbers go down, but that's kind of how you move up to the #1 market. The number has to go down, but you move up, and your money becomes more, but you also continue to still love the industry. So again, the money's out there for producers. I don't want to stay as a producer, but I can still make that good money because I'm gonna move up in markets or positions. But still, start as a producer. Go out there, show them what you're working with, and then you can get there. You can get there.
And also, Edward, I've taken up doing blogging now on my Facebook page too, because I think if I can write stuff and become good at it, that will help my chances of getting in radio as well. And also, I'm on LinkedIn as well, and I put all my audio versions of my podcast on LinkedIn. So I'm hoping somebody maybe on LinkedIn will be impressed with my work as well. And my podcast right now is in 11 countries, which I never thought a year and a half ago I would be able to get more than one country. But
Wow.
it's just hard work. I just keep doing at it. And I, like I said, I've been able to get guys like Dan Shulman from ESPN to come on, and a whole bunch of guys like Tom McCarthy from the NFL on CBS and the Phillies on. So just got to keep plugging away at it and keep wanting to learn and keep improving all the time.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you have an extra 5 minutes to add to the 45. I wanted to talk to you about these coaching firings and the GMs that were let go, and the potential hires out there. So what are your big takes from today? I'm pretty sure you probably have who was let go and all that stuff, written down.
Yeah, I was gonna say with Miami, I'm shocked because I know they started out 1-7, and it looked bad for Brian Flores, but they ended up going 9-8. Obviously, they didn't make the playoffs, but in 3 years, okay, 24-25 is not great, but 9-8 winning record this year, 10-6 last year. They also went 4-2 against the Patriots and Belichick the last 2 years. So Brian Flores, I was shocked about. Matt Nagy, not shocked. I expected it. The gentleman Zimmer in Minnesota, expected it. And Vic Fangio in Denver, I expected it as well. Maybe not fair to them because they haven't had a quarterback, but most of them I expected except for the one in Miami with Brian Flores.
Yeah, I think for me, what I'm shocked that hasn't happened, and this is not because it's a rival, is Joe Judge hasn't been let go. I'm sorry, but Joe Judge has done an awful job with the Giants. He when he first took that job, he talked about changing the culture. Him and Ron Rivera both talked about the same thing. Only one coach has done that thing, and it's been Ron Rivera. And that's why I've told Washington fans who want Ron Rivera gone, which is abysmal to me. Okay, it's crazy. Is that he has changed the culture. I get that culture changes have to come with winning.
Yeah.
But they've also won 7 games in 2 straight years. Washington hasn't won 7 games in 2 straight years since I've been alive that I can remember. Like, I get it. He went 7-10. We should have been more like 10-7, 9-8. I get it. And people wanted the playoffs because we was on that 4-game winning streak. We lost those 2 games, which one, honestly, I think you would agree, Washington should have beaten Philly in the last one. Because if they did, we would have been in the playoffs. But we're not. And I'm not even making excuses, but it is shoulda, coulda, woulda all the time. But Joe Judge has not changed that culture. And here's why I say he hasn't changed the culture. He made a comment, and we all know the comment was about Ron Rivera, his defense, 2 best players on his defense fighting on the sideline. Not in really a fight to me, but getting into a physical argument, okay? He made that comment. We knew who he was talking about. He tried to back off of it. He tried to say he wasn't. He was. And nobody's crazy. We know what you were saying, Joe Judge. But then he also forgot himself that he had a fight in his own, practice field. And then he made that comment, and it's like, wait, why is a coach so worried about another coach? Why is a coach so worried about another coach's team? Then you come out last night or yesterday afternoon, and you get beat 22-7 at home. It didn't help Joe Judge. And I think that a lot of fans even want him gone because they all said that they expected a lot more out of Joe Judge. And here's why I expected more out of Joe Judge too, even though I didn't think he was a great hire. He came from a coaching staff who was coached by Bill Belichick. He was a special teams coach. Things were happening left and right at the beginning of the season on that special teams left and right. Now, they were good on special teams yesterday, but they still lost the game. And he comes from Bill Belichick, again, that I'll say, who is Bill Belichick is the type of coach, you make a mistake, you get benched. You say this, you get benched. You do this, you don't do it my way, you get benched, right? Joe Judge has not done that. Joe Judge has not done that. Kenny Golladay signed with the Giants. 0 touchdowns. 0. That is the same stats that Dewami Brown on the Washington Redskins, who's a rookie, had. 0. There's no way you can hire Kenny Golladay. You can bring in Kenny Golladay and he gets 0 touchdowns. That was supposed to be your best receiver on the team, and it didn't happen. Now, I get it. Giants fans are saying he gave up. He gave up on the team. He didn't want to play anymore. That's baloney. I'm sorry. You got to play until the season is over. Terry McLaurin played until the season was over. The guy had another 1,000-yard receiving year. The guy probably caught, 5 or 6 touchdowns? Come on. We can't speak on somebody giving up. Terry could have given up if he wanted to, but he's not that type of player. It shows the mental state of Kenny Golladay. What he showed me this year is if he did truly give up, if he truly gave up, he's not that player the Giants really wanted. And they paid that guy $75 million. And pretty much threw the book at him by, I think, giving him $40 million guaranteed. You know, Washington signed Curtis Samuels. Very, very, very disappointing season with injuries, right? They only gave him $32 million. I think $16 million was guaranteed. So, again, you look at the 2 players that signed in that division, one got half of what the other got. Mm-hmm. The other got more. So I'm very disappointed with Giants not letting go of Joe Judge. I know some Washington fans would be shocked when I say that, but I love football. I like seeing good coached games. And as long as Joe Judge is there, we're not going to have no good coached games. Washington may sweep the Giants now every year until Joe Judge is gone. You know? So I'm shocked at that. I am shocked at Brian Flores, too, because I thought about it when you said it, that they started 1-7. They went 9-8. That means that they won 8 out of their last 9 games.
Yeah,
and you fired a guy after going 8-1 in the second half.
And how many coaches have a? And how many coaches? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. How many coaches have a winning record against Bill Belichick? Okay, it's only 6 games, 4-2, and they swept New England this year like Buffalo did last year. And to me, I think they're making a huge mistake. But I do agree. I'm not a big fan of Tola, the quarterback. I still am not sure about him, but I think Miami's got all the pieces in the right spot to be a wild card team next year, or even compete for the AFC East.
Yeah, and I'll say this as far as the coaching fires that goes. Flores, I'm surprised he was let go with the winning record the way he ended the season, 8-1. I'm shocked that the Giants have not let go of Joe Judge, but that's still up in the air. Anything can happen with that between today and the off season. What I'm really looking to see is what do the Raiders do? They had one of the worst seasons outside of football. You had their best wide receiver, and hands down, go out there. He made a life mistake. We all make life mistakes, and he made a big one in driving drunk and killing somebody. He still had the trial to go through. Then you had, a few other guys get hurt on that team, and they still made the playoffs. And you have the interim head coach there. I want to know, do they just keep him and make him the full-time head coach, or do they go out and find a different guy, maybe in-house somewhere else, or I really don't think there's another person actually in-house. I think he's the guy if it's in-house, or do you find a coach outside? Because Kellen Moore of the Dallas Cowboys, the offensive coordinator, is going to be a head coach next year. I am sorry, Cowboys fans. Get ready. You are going to lose your OC. He is going to take a job and a pay increase. I'd be shocked if he stays with Dallas. But he is going to, in my opinion, it's a 99% chance he's taking a head coaching job. And I think it's a chance that he takes the job with the Jags maybe, or with somebody like the Broncos. And why do I say that? I think the Broncos have more of a firepower type offense ready, set to go. I think the Jags are still kind of working on things, but the Jags want a proven head coach, or a proven coach at that. Okay? And I think Kellen Moore is the proven, at least coach, that's close to being a head coach, that can take over a Jags team that, let's just say, had one of the worst seasons when it comes to the coach they had there. I mean, the things that came out that he did is not okay. I would say that first and foremost, and I know you would agree. That's just not okay. To kick the kicker, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the most important jobs on your team to make a field goal. You're going to kick him?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Like, so I think,
Myers done with coaching. I can't see any NFL team taking him, and I can't see him going back to college football.
yeah. I mean, I see a very low coaching job in college maybe coming for him. Not some top 10, top 15 school at all. I don't see them taking him because of his history. But yeah, so I think Kellen Moore is a good. Now Brian, I can't remember his name. He coached the Houston Texans.
Bill O'Brien.
His name came up as a potential hire for the Jaguars as well. I'm not sure if I want Bill O'Brien coaching the Jags if I'm a Jaguars fan because he traded away D Hop. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And the Houston Texans went down from there. You know, he had the GM and head coach powers, and he was the worst. I don't think I want any parts of Bill O'Brien on my sideline.
There's a gentleman in Buffalo who should get a shot. Leslie Frazier, their defensive coordinator. I think he should get a shot. And Brian Dable, their offensive coordinator, I think he should get a shot. And as for the Raiders, I agree with you. I think this guy, Richie, the special teams guy who's taken over as coach, should get an opportunity next year because the guys seem to like playing for him and he's gotten them in the playoffs. But knowing Mark Davis, who's Al Davis's son, he's going to end up wanting to bring in a big, splashy type of coach. Because I talked to Amy Lawrence about it, and she thinks the Raiders, even if they do make the playoffs or even win some games, Mark Davis is going to want to bring in a big name, splashy type coach, especially in a city like Vegas.
Yeah, and see, sometimes that's not the answer. I get it that it's the Davis family, but sometimes that's not the answer. I hate to say this, I'm not a big fan of Dan Snyder, but I think he hit it on the nail with hiring Rivera. Because he's not okay. Ron Rivera got to the Super Bowl with Cam Newton and the Panthers that one year. I think they went like 11-5, and then that following year to the Super Bowl they went 15-1. So let's not forget, everybody wants to talk about the losing seasons that he had, but he also had a few winning seasons that got him to the Super Bowl. And Washington fans right now just at least want to win 11 games, get into the playoffs again, and again they also want to just get to the Super Bowl. So I think if you want to just at least get there and get the chance to win it, this is a perfect hire. But I think that Dan has done a good job stepping back 2 years in a row because he's allowed Ron Rivera and the upper management to bring in non-flashy guys. And when I say that is, this is not to put Curtis Samuels down, but he is not a flashy wide receiver. He was the best receiver on Carolina because he was the best receiver on Carolina until Moore came from Maryland, and then when Curtis Samuels left, that was it. So I say that because you even brought in Carter as a kick returner. He's become a little bit more of a flashy player. So the point that I'm making here is that they made a step back in Washington with bringing in flashy players. Now, I think this year is going to happen. I think it's because it's year number 3 of Ron Rivera. He knows he's a wide receiver and a tight end away. He's a quarterback away from that offense being very, very good and flashy. I think if Washington signs a wide receiver number 2, they could be a true one. And, they could bring in a true number 1 tight end. It's not that I don't like Logan Thomas. I think he was a very good signing, and they got him on a bargain deal. But I think he's a true number 2, not a number 1. And if you can sign a true number 1 tight end, to put along him, I think now you're looking at a Washington offense that's very scary. They could put up 35 points a game. I also see a question about what do I think about the Washington football team new name. Here's my thing. It's a lot of speculations out there. A lot of people are speculating that Jason Wright, that they believe that he demolished the name being the Red Hawks or things like that so fans can stop thinking about it, and that you can go from excited about it to, it's not going to be the name. I think the new name is going to be the Washington Commanders. I think only because it makes sense if they're talking about military. A lot of people are also speculating that, they looked at like the military thing with the stars or something like that. And they were like, well, it could be Commanders because of this too. And I'm like, well, it could be because of that as well. Or it could be Commanders because we want to keep military, but the 3 stars means more to the DC flag, because when I looked at that picture, that picture had 4 stars. Washington doesn't have 4 Super Bowls yet. They only got 3, and people are speculating that the stars means how many Super Bowls. Well, that means you're going to update that jersey for another 80 years, because let's say they win 3 more Super Bowls, but now you don't have space for the other 3 stars. So I think it's the Commanders for military, and I think it's the 3 stars represents DC. I don't think that they're going to name it the Washington Hogs or Red Hogs or whatever. It could happen because the Hogs from back in the day, with the team history and how they were back in the day, and they were known as the Hogs and the best offensive line, and they would run your team over, and they was known for that running game with John Riggins. But I don't think it's the Hogs. I think it's the Washington Commanders. That's what I'm sticking with. I have heard from a source outside of the team, but played for the team, that it was supposed to be the Red Hawks. I don't know if that's true now that they have demolished that. But again, it could be that they did that to not make us think that it is the Red Hawks, and then they come out, it is the Red Hawks. But for a source, I heard from somebody I follow and somebody that I actually messaged, it's the Red Hawks from his sources inside the building. And he played for the team. So, I don't know. I think it's a good time, though, for let me just say this to you guys. I think this is a perfect time for us to have a different culture. Ron Rivera is changing the culture he has in the last 2 years, and I think this is a perfect time for a new regime with this team, a new name.
I like that name, Red Hawks. I think Red Hawks. I like Red Hawks. I've heard Admirals too, but the Red Hawks name would be perfect.
I think it's perfect because it brings in, like, a lot of people have been saying, like, the fans can howl during the games, and I was like, oh man, that is pretty cool. You go to Kansas City, they got the chop. You go to Atlanta, they got the chop. You go all these other, but they have songs behind it, or just even noise behind it. I think that's perfect. Another thing is, and I know this isn't part of your question, it's the perfect time to get a new name when we're going to get a new stadium in the next 4 years.
Yeah,
I think the stadium does not need more than 60, 70,000 fans because we're struggling to fill it.
Yeah, it's too big.
Think if you do 60,000, 65,000, you can fill it. And it's going to be look, I hate to say this, the stadium is going to be in Virginia. It is not returning to DC, guys. There's a lot of landmark issues, a lot of issues with the name and this and that, and you got to go through lawmakers in DC. They got to agree to tear down RFK, blah, 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 right? But I think the perfect place, honestly, inside, and for some reason inside I feel it is going to be in Loudon or Press William or somewhere. And all you fans say you're not going to travel there, you're going to travel there regardless. You're just upset that it's not going to be where you want it to be, but you're going to go to these games. And if you don't, it just allows all the Virginia fans to go. I mean, it's not going to stop fans from going because Virginia people travel to Maryland to go to these games too. So now they're just going to have a local stadium to travel to. That's all. But I think this is the perfect time. I think with the culture changing, I personally think Jason Wright got it right by doing it right now.
Definitely. Are you okay for 2 quick questions?
Yeah.
Howard? 2 more? Okay, this one I had to ask you. Thoughts on the NHL and the Washington Capitals, and besides, and I guess your favorite NHL player, I think I already know who it is. And do you think Hartford will ever get an NHL team again in the future?
Okay, so thoughts on the NHL. You can chime in on this too, because I think you had told me that there's some places out there where there's no games. But
no fans in Canada right now. They can't have any fans in any sporting events here right now.
But they are holding games, though. Like, they are playing their games with the. Okay. Yeah. Are they allowing teams from the U.S. to travel over, should I say?
Yes. Right now they are, but like I said, no fans in the stands for at least 3 weeks. Because the numbers here are really high, especially with the variant, and our hospitals are getting full. So I'm hoping maybe by the end of January, February, the fans will come back. But currently in the junior hockey league and in the professional sports leagues, no fans right now.
Okay. So my thoughts on the NHL fully from there. At one point, COVID was rabid through this league. I mean, games were being canceled. I think it's kind of now picked up with games being rescheduled, I think. I haven't seen a whole lot more postponements besides any games that's in Canada.
There were four or five more games postponed for tonight for the hockey.
But that's because it's Canada, right?
Some of them are actually in the States too.
Okay, well then there you go. So, at one point I was thinking maybe that they should have just shut it down for a whole month, not just 2 weeks, to get this under control.
Yep.
I think the problem is it's all about the money, and they want to keep the revenue coming in because they lost a lot when they did not have any fans last year. And the fact that, local states in the U.S. can have fans, they just got to be vaccinated and wear a mask when they're up. It's bringing money back in. So even though my thoughts don't matter, I think that they should have canceled it for a month, maybe a little longer, who knows,
Yep.
Leading up to the holiday season. But revenue-wise, I understand why they're not doing it. But we're talking about health-wise, why they should have done it. I think that there's a lot of good divisions this year. I mean, the Metro is very tight. You have Carolina at the top, I think, and let me check real quick, but I think they got 50 points, maybe 51 points, if that. You got Carolina, New York Rangers with 50. You got Washington with 49. Then in Atlanta, you got Florida and Tampa with 51. Toronto, who was actually a lot higher but slipped a little bit, with 47. And you got Pittsburgh with 45, not far out of the Metro. And then Boston, 38, a good 11 points out. And then you got like Detroit and Columbus behind Boston, who is like, if they go on a winning streak and Boston, for example, loses tonight to Washington, Detroit's in that spot. So it's like, it's so bouncy right now. Same in the West. I mean, Nashville's in first. Nashville. They're ahead of St. Louis. And then you got St. Louis ahead of Colorado. And now I get it. The season is still young, but those are your teams that are in the top spot in the Central. And in the Pacific, you got Vegas, Anaheim, and Calgary, the Flames. Like, that's crazy. And Minnesota with 44 points in a wild card spot. And at any point in time, can knock Colorado, I think, if I'm not mistaken, into a wild card spot, or even the Flames into a wild card spot. You got the Kings even there. I mean, it's a wild season with all these teams and how close it is, but I think it's because of the canceled games. My favorite player on the Capitals, like you said, is Ovechkin, but I think behind him is Backstrom because of the tandem that they have. You just see how different the team is when Backstrom and Ovi is on the ice together. Behind that, I've really, really started to fall in love with Oshie and Kuznetsov as well over the years, and then Tom Wilson, of course. And let me see. I really, really am starting to like Connor McMichael too. I think he's coming along as a young youth player. He hasn't, if I'm mistaken, been sent back down to AHL.
He was a good OHL player too, Connor McMichael. He was with Hamilton and then was traded to London for Robert Thomas, who's with the Blues now. And that's the one thing about this OHL league. I see a lot of these young kids as teenagers before they become in the NHL. The league that's here is called the Ontario Hockey League. It's a feeder system. It's like college football is to the NFL, and it's great to see young kids like that make the NHL.
So there was a team who had an issue with their stadium. Who was it? Or with their arena? Somebody had contract issues or something like that going on, and they let me research it real quick.
I know Calgary is looking to build a new arena, and now it's fell through. They were supposed to build one because the Saddle Dome in Calgary is from 1983, and they were looking to get a new arena built, but that with the city there, and it's fell through as well.
There was something with a team that had issues, I think, with payments or something with their arena.
Arizona Coyotes, and that's another market. That market has failed. To me, the Arizona Cardinals should be moved out of there. And to me, I think they should go. I'm personally biased. I think they should go back to. They should come to Canada with Quebec City. I think if there's going to be another team in Canada, it should be in Quebec City, which would give the Canadians, us here, 8 franchises instead of 7. Because Arizona, to me, has failed. Just like Atlanta. They tried Atlanta with the Flames before you were born, and it failed, and they moved to Calgary. And then they tried with the Thrashers, who ended up moving to Winnipeg. So, to me, I think the NHL should just move on from that Arizona market.
To be honest with you, if Hartford is going to get another NHL team, it's probably also Arizona. I think Canada and Quebec and Hartford will probably be a toss-up. But I think Hartford could use another NHL team. It's a perfect city for it. Honestly, they can use the XL Center out here to play there. It wouldn't be any difference than, any other local team using it to have their basketball teams play there. So yeah, I think if anything, I really can't think of any other NHL team that has failed in a city. I mean, I think there's a lot of good teams that are just bad right now, but that's just rebuilding. But Arizona is definitely one of them that I think just needs to come out to Hartford. They could, if your question means like they need a new restart, like they just need to restart somewhere, Hartford's the place. I've only been out here 4 months. I love it here. I mean, I walked to the XL Center. I've been to a couple of what is it, the Hartford College team games. It's awesome, man. Like the fans there are great. You know, I wore my cap jersey and it was like, okay, we can let this slide because it's the Capitals. They're great and it's Ovechkin. But they're really, really nice there. You know, they it's very friendly, family friendly in there. The fans here love the city, and I think the fact that they only have, because you know, up here at Harvard, we cover the affiliates for the Rangers. So that's why we cover. We also have sometimes Rangers games on like our sports segments, but bringing an NHL team here, oh my gosh, it was this city revenue wise will go up. And I think the market size, honestly, if we got an NHL team here, would change the market size. I don't think it would no longer be like 32. I think it would go to like 20s because of getting a professional team here. And people would care more about, I mean, people care about sports. Don't get me wrong. Boston's the team up here, but you bring a team to Hartford, Boston might lose some of those fans. You know,
the rivalry, and the thing is, Hartford has a history with the World Hockey League, the WHL, and then the Hartford Whalers becoming the NHL, and with Gordie Howe playing there, and Mark Howe, Ray Ferrero, John Kellen, they have a history there. Just like the Washington Nationals, they were the Montreal Expos for 40 years.
Yep.
I'd love to see Montreal get a baseball team. I'm not saying take the Nationals out of Washington because I think it's been a good fit being in Washington, but I'd love to see the return of Major League Baseball to Montreal and that Expos team as long as they have a new stadium. And I think if Hartford can build a new arena and prove to the NHL they can support a team, I would love to see Hartford get a team, Quebec in hockey, and then in baseball, Montreal and Nashville. I think Nashville in that Tennessee area could support a Major League Baseball team.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think those cities right there are just perfect. They just, some places just don't physically fit for a team. For example, a place where it physically was fit, and because I can say that, I can say this because I visited after we beat them for the Stanley Cup. Vegas was a perfect spot.
Yep.
Perfect spot because it's Vegas, all the betting, the casino, the city. The same thing goes for the Vegas Raiders. Regardless of how good they are or how bad they are for a decade or two, it's a perfect place for it. I mean, just look at last night. It's perfect for it. Now, you got teams that travel. I was shocked to see how many Washington fans were out there, but it was still a perfect place for Vegas to be.
I'll say this, in the next 5 years, Vegas will have a Major League Baseball team and an NBA team, in my opinion, in the next 5 years. They'll have all four major sports there.
I think they will get a, let me see. You know what? I think that they will get a baseball team before they get a basketball team. I say it'll be in the next decade, and I say that's because it takes so much just to get things there. Like the league has to agree. There has to be a contract. They have to build it, and sometimes a stadium location and building it could take a year to a year and a half. You have to have permits to do all this. Figure out what you're going to knock down that's not needed anymore, and then you got to go through the person who owns that building for them to agree. I say a baseball team because it's more games, more revenue, and I think that area. I know people are going to say, well, they got the Anaheim, LA Anaheim, they got the Dodgers, they got San Francisco, they got all these other things, right? I just think they can use another baseball team. I mean, how many leagues do you know that have several teams in one location? I mean, you got the Jets, the Giants. I mean, come on now. So I'm fine with it. I mean, again, you go over to Canada, there's what? You said 7 hockey teams?
7 NHL teams. It would be nice to get an 8th one.
So you can never go with too many sports teams in one city.
Yep, definitely. And I just got one last question for you, Edward, and then I'll let you go. Do you have any advice, not just for me, for those looking to pursue a career in the news industry, as a news producer, reporter, etc., radio industry? And where can my audience find you again on social media?
So on social media, you can find me on Twitter at Edward Ford _TV. I just changed my Twitter name. I know some of you guys was like, oh my gosh, he was verified. Yeah, I just reapplied. It's not a big deal. You submit your articles or whatever that you have. But yeah, I was verified. I should be again here soon. But yes, you can find me on Twitter at Edward Ford _TV. You can also search me on Facebook, first and last name, Edward Ford. Really not that active, trying to get a lot more active on Instagram, but you can also find me there if you search my name, Edward Ford. I don't think you will go wrong by just check the picture. My advice to people, as I said earlier, is just be coachable. Understand that when you do apply to these jobs, submit what you have, but also be mentally prepared to answer questions. There's a lot of hard questions that come with interviews. Of course, looking at me like, were you working news? You can say that. I get it. I had it twice, kind of get the gist of the questions, but be coachable, be ready for the interview, have highlight reels if you're wanting to be a first-time reporter or first-time MMJ, which is considered a multimedia journalist, meaning they do a lot more of editing their own packages and stuff. And if you want to be like a sports anchor or even a news anchor, also be ready to have on-air stuff to send in. They want to know who you are, how you sound. Obviously be professional, but I think the biggest thing for me is just understand that if you do get knocked down because you do not get offered a job, do not fall down, get back up, keep going. My friend here, Chris, told you how he got into doing podcasts and how he was offered a volunteer position to do camera work. And, this is another thing. Be versatile. I said that earlier. Be versatile, because in this industry, one thing my news director put in my card, me being versatile is going to help me so much in this industry, he said, because I'm not only just a news producer, but now I'm putting packages together and learning how to edit. News producers don't edit, usually. They don't usually go into editing. But knowing how to do it will allow me to be an MMJ and a reporter. Me putting a package together and having a stand-up eventually as a reporter will allow me to go into that field. So just be versatile. Don't go in thinking you only want to be one thing. Always set yourself out to always want to learn, listen, join committees in your building. Don't go in there just be one person and want to lead. Join committees. Show them that you care about changing a culture, because that is the best thing to have being in the building. Don't be one-dimensional. Be quadruple. Be 1,000 ways of being dimensional. Just always walk in there with a positive attitude. Ask questions if you don't know, and just keep going. Don't apply. Look, one thing I will say, my friends taught me before we get off here. I was the type of person who was like, oh, it says 5 years, I'm not going to get that job. Well, Hartford said that their requirement was 3 to 5. I only had 10 as a producer, a year and a half in the industry completely, including my internship and radio job, and they still hired me. You know why? He said, because I brought a different attitude that he was looking for. I was so versatile in what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go with my career. That's why they hired me. So again, just because you want to do one thing and you tell them that, it doesn't mean that you can't do it. They see me being able to become a reporter here at the station. They told me to just give them the first year and a half of me being there. Well, I'm almost completed my first year this year in October. Time flies. You will get there. So just stay positive.
Yeah, and I just recently updated my resume because one of my friends from a radio station said, Chris, you're already ready to go for radio. She paid me a nice compliment, but she said, put all your podcasting skills and all your social media skills on your resume. And I actually did that. And she said, what you just said too, don't be intimidated by, you have to have, college or university or 5 or 10 years of experience. You're getting your experience with your podcasting now and also with Rogers TV. So I'm all ready to go, and I'm just hopefully I'm hoping sometime in 2022 I will have an opportunity to hopefully work in a radio station or even volunteer in a radio station and get my foot in the door.
And I'll say this before we go. I was in a meeting, we was just told by even our own leader, a lot of industries are changing to hire people out of college. They're backing away from this 5 years thing, this 3 years thing, right? Because they said sometimes your best producers, your best reporters, your best anchors are coming right out of college. They do have what they want to be the best on air people or to even work behind the scenes. And a lot of stations who used to say 5 years, 3 years, is no longer doing that. They may keep the 1 year thing, but they're still offering people jobs right out of college. So that's why I say don't get down. They will hire you somewhere. Somebody's going to give you a chance, and you just got to take the chance. Sometimes, I just want to let people know this too. Sometimes it's not all about the money when you first got in, when you get in. You may get offered, and I'll put it out there for me. I got offered 31 and a half when I went to New York State. I was moving 7.5 hours away from home. 31 and a half, I could have stayed home and kept making 36 and a half with regular hours and overtime 45. I went from there to here to Hartford, I think, 59 to 32, 27 market jump, right? I got a 35% increase in my salary. It will happen. When you go to these different markets, it will happen. Eventually, in 5 years, I can see myself making 75, 80. You will get there. You will make some good money, but it's not all about the money when you first get in. Then once your talents get up there, because I would say I've done so much more different stuff here than I did at CBS6, that when you show how versatile you are, they're going to want you. I've had the new, and I'm not reaching out to nobody because I'm on contract, but I've had people on LinkedIn, like I said, in New York reach out to me. The new Fox weather thing in New York, I've had them reach out to me, or at least look at my profile. All these news stations are looking at my profile because they see I got experience, and news producers are a big, big need right now. So somebody's going to hire you.
Okay, well, I was going to say thank you for the advice and for coming on and speaking with us tonight. And I definitely, hopefully, I can have you back on as a guest again, and we'll talk more about the Washington football team and the Nationals and the Capitals, and maybe a little more behind the scenes of your job with Fox 61 too, as well.
Okay, I appreciate you having me tonight. Great, great show. Keep in touch. I will definitely be able to come back on. Right now, my days that I'm off are Monday and Tuesdays, Monday mornings, Tuesday mornings, and then Sunday nights. So those are around the times that I can come on. But it was great talking to you. Great for all your guests, I'm sure, are watching, and even the ones that will be able to watch later. If you guys have any questions, reach out to me on Twitter. You can DM me. You can even email me at eford@fox61.com.
Okay, no problem. Well, thank you so much, Edward, for coming on, and we'll definitely keep in touch with you on social media. I hope you have a great night and enjoy the Monday Night Football game on tonight. The college football game's on tonight too.
Yep, and the Cats play, so it's a lot of switching back and forth.
I got to go with Alabama over Georgia for the college.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with Alabama over Georgia. There's going to be a lot of upset Georgia fans, I think, tonight.
Definitely. Okay. Anyways, have a great night. Enjoy the games, and we'll keep in touch with you on social media, Edward.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed my podcast tonight with Edward Ford. He's a news producer for Fox 61 in Hartford, Connecticut. He's a huge Washington football fan, Capitals fan, Nationals fan, and Wizards fan as well. So just before we go, I'm just going to show a quick clip of the Eagles Buccaneers preview for this Sunday's game in Tampa Bay at 1 o'clock. And also, guys, just to let you know, next Live with CDP podcast will be Wednesday, January 12th at 7 o'clock Eastern. Guest will be Reese Domani. He's a media relation play-by-play voice of the Intercounty Baseball League's Brantford Red Sox, and he's also the host of the podcast, The OHL in 60. So we'll talk about some IBIO baseball and some OHL in his career in broadcasting as well. And also, guys, just 1 second, I'm just going to show the clip, 2-minute clip of the Bucks Eagles preview for this Sunday's wild card game in Tampa Bay against Tom Brady and the world champion Bucks.
Writer and editor Scott Smith, and it is officially playoffs time, regular season behind us, which also, of course, means we know who the Buccaneers will be facing in the first round of the playoffs. We know the Bucks finished as the number 2 seed, which is amazing, and they are going to be taking on Philadelphia. So first of all, just tell us how we ended up in this situation as the 2 seed and taking on Philly.
Well, it means the day went exactly the way the Bucks wanted it to. They took care of their own business and beat the Panthers. And at the same time, the San Francisco 49ers did us a favor and beat the Rams. And because of that, the Buccaneers have moved ahead of the Rams in the seeding to get that 2nd seed based simply on a better record. Previously, they were the 3rd seed, the Bucks were, because even though they had the same record as the Rams, they lost to Los Angeles in week 3. So the Bucks got the 2, end up against the 7, and it's a familiar opponent.
Exactly, which next question is always going to be, what do you think the Buccaneers will be facing? So we do know it's an opponent they've already faced. What's similar? What's different? What are the big things you think they're going to have to be focusing on?
Well, yes, this is the second place team in the NFC East. Weirdly, they were much better on the road this year. The Buccaneers beat them in Philly. They were 6-3 in road games this year, and they really had a nice winning streak down the stretch. But it's a little hard to quantify it because they only had one win versus a team that now has a winning record. So, it's a little bit of wondering how real that winning streak was. But hey, they're here. The Bucks beat them 28-22. They made a really nice comeback in that game, and it got a little hairy at the end. This is the team that is number one in the NFL in run percentage. That is, they are the only team that runs the ball on more than 50% of their plays. And the reason, of course, they do have a lot of running backs that they mix and match, but they have Jalen Hurts, their quarterback, who going into last weekend had already rushed for 784 yards and 10 touchdowns. They are picking up 160.4 rushing yards per game, 4.96 per carry. Both of those are excellent numbers. And in the receiving core, the rookie Devontae Smith is leading the way, but they also use Dallas Goedert, the tight end, a lot. And their offensive line is led by a Pro Bowler at the center in Jason Kelce. On defense, they didn't get any Pro Bowlers, but they do have guys like Fletcher Cox, Darius Slay, who has 3 picks, Javon Hargrave, who is a force in the middle. I think he has 7.5 sacks. All these numbers were coming into the final weekend. And you put it all together and you got a team that's tied for 8th in scoring, tied for 8th in scoring defense and is 9th in yardage defense. And they're very hard to run on. So there's a lot of strengths on both sides of the ball to this Eagles team. And like I said, they've been coming on hot lately.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us on this playoff preview. Enjoy all of our coverage leading up to the game.
Anyways, that clip was courtesy of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just wanted to get a Tampa Bay perspective of the preview against the Eagles. Currently, right now, the Buccaneers are 8-point favorites against the Eagles. They did beat the Eagles 28-22 3 months ago in Philadelphia, and the Eagles were down 28-7 and made a rally to make it 28-22. But I think the Eagles are a much better football team than 3 months ago, and obviously, the Eagles are huge underdogs against the Super Bowl champs and Tom Brady, but the Eagles do have the best running game in the National Football League. They set a franchise record this year. The Eagles, 2,715 rushing yards and 25 rushing touchdowns. So if their defense can pressure and blitz Brady and they can get some turnovers and also control the clock, have the ball for 40 minutes and grind out the clock and grind out yards and put on touchdowns instead of field goals, they'll have a chance. Right now, I'm predicting the Bucs to win 31-17, but the Eagles are capable of winning this game if they can get some turnovers from the Bucs offense and they can get some big plays from their defense and run the ball too. I figure they're going to need to at least get 150 to 175 yards against the Bucs to have a chance. So we'll see. Jalen Hurts' first playoff game as a quarterback and Nick Sirianni's first playoff game as a head coach. So that kickoff is Sunday, January 16th at 1 o'clock from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa Bay, Eagles and Bucs. So anyways, guys, I'm going to call it a podcast. But again, my next podcast is this Wednesday, January 12th, 7 o'clock. Reese Drew Manny from the Brantford Red Sox, play-by-play announcer, and he occasionally does some work for the OHL's Niagara Ice Dog, and he's also the host of a podcast called the OHL in 60. We'll come on and talk some OHL and IBL baseball and his career in broadcasting as well. Just to let you know, guys, Live with CDP podcast, the audio version is always downloaded onto Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, and LinkedIn as well. And I just want to say thank you to everybody watching live on my YouTube channel. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And also thank you for watching on Facebook Live and on Twitter as well. So, and again, I just want to let you guys know, you guys can also follow me on TikTok. You can follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP on TikTok as well. All right, guys, I'm going to call it a podcast. And also, I just want to say Live with CDP podcast is currently being listened to by 11 countries. Thank you again so much for listening to Live with CDP podcast. And one quick note, the OHL's Gold Storm game tonight was postponed against Owen Sound. The Thursday, January 13th game at Windsor, and the January 14th home game at the Sleeman Center due to COVID protocols. So the Storm's next scheduled game, fingers crossed, will be January 16th, and it looks like my next game won't be until January 22nd as well. All right, guys, I'm going to call it a show. Again, I just want to say thank you for Mark Richardson. Thank you for watching. Great guest. Really appreciate it. And like I said, guys, I'm looking forward to my next podcast this Wednesday night at 7 o'clock with Reese Dolmani. All right, guys, I hope you all have a great night. Enjoy the college football championship at 8 o'clock between Alabama and Georgia. I'm picking Alabama, and also enjoy the Monday night football game as well. Okay, we'll see you guys Wednesday night, 7 o'clock for another edition of Live with CDP podcast. Thanks for watching this live and on audio version. We'll see you guys Wednesday night at 7 o'clock with Reese.